Welcome back to the deep dive. I want to start today with a bit of a provocation. We spend so much time obsessing over visible impact.
Hmm. Yeah. The big, loud stuff.
Exactly. Politicians on TV, tech CEOs launching rockets, you know the drill. But I've been thinking about the other end of that. I've been thinking about quiet impact.
Quiet impact. I like that phrase. It has some real weight to it.
It does, right. It's this idea that there are people whose, I don't know, intellectual fingerprints are literally holding up the ceiling above you right now.
Or the bridge you drove over this morning.
Yes. And you have no idea who they are. Their work is so good, it becomes invisible.
That's the paradox of civil engineering, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you do your job perfectly, nothing happens. No one notices the building not falling down.
Exactly. And today we're going to try and make one of those invisible giants visible. We're looking at the life and work of Professor Shengtar Mao. Most people just knew him as ST.
Right, he passed away recently, and we're working from two main sources. A really detailed obituary about his life, and a tribute from the University of Houston about a new professorship in his name.
And looking at these, it's easy to get lost in the titles, dean, chairman, professor.
But that's not the real story here. The story is about a very specific philosophy of safety.
It really is. When I was reading this, I realized it's not just a biography. It's almost a blueprint for how one person's mind can, well, literally save thousands of lives decades after they did the math.
And that is not an exaggeration. We are going to connect the dots today between a guy doing calculations in Taipei back in the 70s and the fact that in 2024, a massive earthquake hit Taiwan and there were 0 deaths from building collapse.
0.
0.
That stat it stopped me in my tracks. We'll get to the how because the science is fascinating, but let's start with the who. Who is ST Mao?
Well, his start was anything but quiet. He was born January 19th, 1943 in Chongqing.
Which, for context, that was China's wartime capital during World War II.
Exactly. So he comes into the world right in the middle of all this chaos. He was the youngest of 6 kids. The family eventually moves to Taiwan, and it becomes pretty clear pretty fast that this kid is just operating on a different level.
The classic academic juggernaut.
Totally.
Yeah.
Graduates from the best high school in Taipei. Then he goes to National Taiwan University, NTU. And for anyone who doesn't know, NTU is basically the Harvard of Taiwan. It is the gold standard.
And he didn't just get by.
Oh, not even close.
Yeah.
He finished at the absolute top of his civil engineering class in 1965.
Yeah.
But here's the detail I loved, because it makes him sound like a real person, not a robot. He joined the Audiovisual Club at NTU.
The AV Club, which, okay, today that sounds a little nerdy.
Right, but back then, that was high-tech stuff.
Yeah.
And more importantly, that's where the human element comes in. That's where he met Pei San-ming, who everyone called Jerry.
The sources say she was the love of his life, and their relationship timeline is something else. It's frantic.
It really is.
Yeah.
So ST graduates, does his military service, gets into a PhD program at Cornell in the U.S. He leaves Taipei on August 20th, 1968, lands at JFK.
Okay, so he's in a new country.
He is. But Jerry is there too. And before he even goes up to Ithaca to start his PhD, he and Jerry get married in Manhattan on August 24th.
Wait, 4 days after he lands?
On 4 days.
Welcome to America. Here's your luggage. Here's your wife. Now go get a doctorate.
Pretty much, yeah. And he was fast. He finishes his PhD in 1971, which for engineering is incredibly quick.
Yeah.
Their first son, Ted, was born while he was still studying.
And then he gets a job as a senior research engineer at MIT.
Which is, the holy grail.
Right. So let's pause there. He's in his late 20s, PhD from Cornell, job at MIT, a young family. I mean, in the academic world, he's won the lottery. He could have just stayed in Boston.
Absolutely. Most people would have.
So why go back? Taiwan in the early 70s wasn't the economic powerhouse it is today. Why leave MIT for that?
And this, I think, is the key to his whole character. His son Ted talks about this in the UH article. He said his father chose civil engineering specifically for its tangible value to society.
Tangible value?
Yeah. ST Mao knew Taiwan was developing like crazy. They were building everything, bridges, high-rises, dams. But they were doing it on, well, shaking ground.
The Pacific Ring of Fire.
The most seismically active zone on the planet. He knew if the engineering wasn't top-notch, all that new construction was just future rubble. He had to make sure it was safe.
So it wasn't a career move, it was a sense of duty.
That's how I read it. So in 1973, he goes back to Taiwan. And what happens next is, well, it's just wild.
You're talking about the promotion.
Yes. At age 30 years old, ST Mao becomes the chairman of the Civil Engineering Department at NTU.
That's insane. Department chairs are usually the gray-haired veterans of the faculty. He's barely older than his own grad students.
It just shows you how much they needed him, how much they trusted him. And he didn't just sit in the chair, he completely overhauled the department, doubled the faculty, modernized everything. But the most important thing he did for our deep dive today was start the research engine.
Okay, let's slow down here because research can be such a vague word. What did he actually do? What did he put in place?
There are three sort of technical pillars.
Yeah.
First, he started the Center for Earthquake Engineering Research at NTU. You need a centralized place for the experts, for the data, before you can do anything else.
Step one, build the brain trust.
Right. Step two, and this is the big one for the engineering nerds listening, he launched research into something called PSHA.
DSHA. Okay, I saw this. Probabilistic seismic hazard analysis sounds dense. Break it down for me.
Okay, think of it like this. Before PSHA, you might just say, earthquakes happen here, so let's make the walls really, really thick. It's a yes or no kind of thinking.
Got it.
PSHA is different. It uses geology, historical data, all of it, to calculate specific odds. It answers the question, what is the probability of this exact level of ground shaking happening in this specific spot over the next 50 years?
So it's not a blanket rule, it's more like a risk map.
It's a risk management tool, exactly. And it allowed him to create Taiwan's first seismic design zoning map. So a builder could look at the map and say, okay, in this zone, I need steel reinforcement that can handle X amount of force.
It turns a vague fear into a specific building code.
Precisely. And the third pillar was something called structural health monitoring.
This one blew my mind. It sounds like a medical checkup for a dam.
That's a great way to put it. It's like an EKG for a skyscraper. He set up this program with UC Berkeley to study these huge dams in Taiwan. And they performed forced vibration tests.
Forced vibration? You mean they shook the dam on purpose?
In a very controlled way, yes.
That sounds terrifying.
It sounds scary, but it's brilliant. See, every structure has a natural frequency, a rate it likes to vibrate at. If you introduce a vibration, you can measure how it responds. A healthy, stiff building vibrates one way.
And one with damage?
If it has internal damage, tiny cracks you can't even see, that stiffness drops. And the vibration frequency changes. They were listening to the health of the dams.
And he's doing this in the 70s with analog equipment.
It's visionary stuff. And this brings us to the proof. Because you can talk about research all day, but civil engineering is a high-stakes game. The scorecard is written in disasters.
It is. And this part of the UH article from Professor Roberto Ballerini, it just hits you like a ton of bricks. He sets up this comparison between two earthquakes.
It's a chilling comparison. First, you have the Chi earthquake in 1999.
Right. September 21st, 1999, a magnitude 7.3. It was a total catastrophe.
Over 2,400 people died. Thousands and thousands of buildings just collapsed. It was a massive humanitarian disaster.
I remember seeing that on the news. It was devastating. It showed that so much of the older construction just wasn't ready.
Exactly. But it also forced everyone to double down on the standards that Dr. Mao had been pushing for decades.
Oh.
So now, you fast forward 25 years, April 2024. The 0403 earthquake hits.
And the power of this quake was almost identical, right?
Very close. Magnitude 7.2. Basically the same amount of energy released.
And the death toll from building collapse?
Zero.
Zero.
Not a single person died from a building collapsing.
That's almost statistically impossible. Same place, same magnitude, just 25 years apart, and you get zero.
And Ballerini is very clear about why. He said, and I'm quoting, "The extraordinary difference is, in large part, the result of the research conducted at Taiwan's NCRE."
Which is the National Center for Research on Earthquake Engineering.
The direct evolution of the little center, St. Mao, started at NTU. He planted that seed. He established the standards. He trained the engineers who wrote the modern codes that kept those buildings standing. That zero is his legacy.
It gives me goosebumps.
Yeah.
It just validates that quote from his son, tangible value. There are people walking around Taipei today who are alive because St. Mao cared about vibration analysis in 1975.
It is the ultimate proof of a life in engineering. Using your mind to help people you will never, ever meet.
So his story doesn't end there. The family moves back to the U.S. in 1984. Why the move back?
Well, by then, the program in Taiwan was solid. It was up and running, so he moved the family to Houston. And again, there's this personal connection. He was recruited to the University of Houston by Thomas who?
Uncle Tom.
Uncle Tom, yeah.
Yeah.
The kids all grew up calling him that. It just shows you how close-knit that world is. And at UH, he didn't slow down. He was chair of the department from 93 to 96.
And the sources call him an effective and fair leader, which is, a rare combo.
It seems like he was great at building consensus, brought in millions in funding, and he kept doing his own research, too. He won the Moissauf Award in 1989.
Is that a big one?
Oh, in structural mechanics. It's huge. It's for papers that make a major contribution to structural design. So he's running a department, raising a family, and still winning top-tier awards.
He eventually went on to be a dean at NJIT and Cal State Northridge, but there was a moment from the memorial service his son Ted mentioned that I found really touching.
I know the one you mean. He said he was pleasantly surprised by who showed up.
Yeah. Ted admitted he didn't really know his dad's colleagues from those later years, but at the memorial, all these people just appeared.
It's that dad is just dad thing,
Yeah.
You see him at home reading the paper, you don't realize he's a giant in his field until you see the respect he gets from his peers.
Ted said it gave a public aspect to his father's memory that the family didn't even know was there.
That's powerful.
Speaking of the private side, we have to talk about the scholar persona, because if we stop here, you just picture this rigid engineer, but that wasn't him at all.
Not even close. This is where the cultural context is so beautiful. In the West, we tend to put people in boxes, right? You're a math person or an art person. St. Mao was the embodiment of the classical Chinese scholar ideal.
Which is about being proficient in everything.
Everything. He was a master calligrapher, wrote beautiful prose and poetry, and he played the pipa.
The Chinese lute, right.
Yeah, a traditional string instrument. And I just love the symmetry there. By day, he's analyzing the destructive, forced vibrations of a million-ton dam.
And by night, he's mastering the subtle, beautiful vibrations of a pipa.
It's a mind that is just so deeply attuned to resonance, whether it's structural or musical. It's all about harmony.
And balance. He retired in 2009. He and Jerry moved to the hills above the San Fernando Valley.
The golden years. And eventually they moved back to Houston in 2017 to be closer to their grandkids, Jeremy, Abigail, and Nathaniel.
And sadly, Jerry passed in 2021, and Dr. Mao followed in December of 2024. But the University of Houston is making sure their names live on.
The Cullen College of Engineering professorship in honor of St. and Jerry Mao.
I love that they included Jerry in the title.
Ted insisted on it. He said she was the woman standing behind my father, which is just, it acknowledges the reality. You don't have a career like that without a true partner.
It's a family legacy. So as we wrap this up, I'm thinking back to where we started. Quiet impact. What's the one thing you want people to take away from his life?
For me, it's that engineering is a form of care. We think of doctors and firefighters saving lives. But St. Mao saved lives with mathematics. He looked at a threat, and he used his intellect to neutralize it. That zero from the 2024 earthquake, that's the greatest eulogy he could ever have.
It totally reframes how you look at the city around you. We put so much trust in these structures every day without a second thought.
And that trust is earned. It's earned by people like him who spent their lives sweating the details so we wouldn't have to.
I want to leave you with this thought about that structural health monitoring. Dr. Mao spent his career measuring the health of buildings, but in a way, he was also monitoring the health of his society. He saw the cracks, the lack of data, the weak codes, and he reinforced them.
He retrofitted the future.
Exactly. So the next time you walk into a skyscraper or cross a bridge, just take a second to appreciate the invisible math and the invisible people keeping you safe. It's a quiet legacy, but it's the only reason we get to live our loud lives.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. We'll see you next time.